time. You have to have the time to do it. You got to have time to think. You have to have time to react. You have to have time to plan. You have to have time to visualize. You have to have time to communicate. You have to have time to be able to do all the things that you need to do to lead. Practice makes good, and good makes consistent. I hear a lot, practice makes perfect. Practice doesn't make perfect.
I'm going to share this with you, and I'm open for disagreement, perspective, argument, however you want to say it, intelligent conversation. But I don't believe in time management.
There's 3 things that a leader has to worry about.
Do you ever feel like you are leading from a place that just isn't you? Perhaps trying to fit a mold or lead to someone else's expectations. Well, if you feel that way and you're ready to lead from a place of authenticity, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Josh Fisher, and this is Off Script, a leadership podcast for people who don't like leadership podcasts. So here we are. Let's go.
Welcome to another episode of Off Script with Josh Fisher. Today's guest is someone I've known for years, at least through his work, through his books, through his online presence. It's Dr. Wayne Applewhite. So I met Wayne when he was my professor back at Boston University. And I remember from the first moment I stepped into the classroom, I knew that I was in the presence of someone who doesn't just talk about leadership, but lives it with unwavering positivity, ruthless expectations, and relentless action. So Wayne has shaped countless leaders through his work through leadership coaching, being an author, a speaker. And today, Wayne and I are going to dive into how true leadership starts with action. So Dr. Applewhite, if you don't mind, I'm going to call you Wayne. Welcome to the show.
Please do.
Yeah, welcome to the show. This is going to be fun. We're going to remove all filters and we're going to talk about leadership. And it's a pleasure to have you here, and it's a pleasure to have you going off script with me. So again, welcome to Off Script. Glad to have you here.
Sir, it is a pleasure to be here. I am honored. I'm embarrassed because all those things you said, I don't know what I did to earn those, but I appreciate it. You're very kind with your words. But it's an absolute joy to be with you and to see you again. Oh my goodness, it's been a while since we were at Cherry Point.
Yeah, that was 2011 to 2013. It was a Cherry Point program. For those who don't know, that's a Marine Corps base. And we actually had legitimate Boston University professors fly down every other weekend to hang out with us and teach us about leadership. So catch me up on what's been going on since then.
Oh my goodness. It's been a roller coaster, ups and downs everywhere, doing the podcast, writing the book, writing a couple books, just traveling. My wife and I we finally took a real trip. Never been on a cruise before. So our first cruise and only cruise was to Antarctica in 2023.
Okay. You went the like really far and cold.
Yes. Yeah.
not the Caribbean.
No, not the Caribbean. Come on, we got to do something different. You got to jump out your comfort zone. So that was definitely out my comfort zone, but it was fun. It was a grand time.
So
anyway,
why there?
Just doing stuff.
I know you said like the getting out of your comfort zone, but I'm curious, like why that destination?
Okay, because I have been we're trying to touch every continent, so that takes me to 6. Okay. And because we had the choices, as you said, to go to the Caribbean, go to Hawaii, or go to all these other places, I had been there. Let's do something different and wild. And so we said, okay, let's go to Antarctica. And I go, okay, that's a little cold, but let's do it. So we just did, and it was fun. It was absolute blast looking at the Now, here's one thing that I did not know about penguins, and I'm not sure if you know this about penguins. Have you heard of kids that have projectile vomiting kinds of things?
I have. Yeah, absolutely.
Penguins have projectile poop. They're walking upright.
Okay, fun fact about penguins.
It's like a missile coming out. They're walking up on their leg, upright, and poop, poop, poop. And I looked at one of our guys and go, "What was that?" He goes, "Well, they have projectile poop, so watch yourself." I said, "Okay."
Okay.
Anyway, fun fact
about
from
penguins.
Antarctica. Yes.
The only thing I knew about penguins is they don't fly.
Exactly. Yes.
That's about it.
It was good.
Yeah.
It was good. It was fun.
So
yes.
Good. So I want to get right into it. I want to get into some powerful questions right off the bat, and I want to get our listeners engaged. And I want to start out, and I start this out every podcast the same way, with the title of Off Script Leadership. When you hear the word off script and kind of understanding what I'm trying to do, my mission and vision, what comes to mind for you, sir?
Off script was mine. It was easy for me to think of what off script was. I used to, in high school and college, I did some acting, and you have a script, you got a manuscript, you've got a script to follow. And when we go off script, we're ad-libbing. We are doing things that's not in the script. And it sometimes gets producers, directors, in a little huff, but
right.
it's the moment, and it's spontaneity. What I see about what you're doing, and I'm enjoying, as I told you just before we started this, I've listened to 3 or 4 of your podcasts, and I really enjoy it. And off script, to me, is something that you and I and everyone else has probably done over their time at work or in social gatherings, where it's expected of you to do A, B, C, but you might start with F, G, H, and I might start with Z. And sometimes that gets individuals angry. Sometimes it makes people think differently, and sometimes it puts a different spin and perspective on a group, such that you've got their attention now. And let's go with it. I used to say be real, but it's integrity and honesty and those kinds of things. And I think we can never go off script with integrity or honesty. That should be forefront in our minds all the time. It should always be in the script. And if a leader, a boss, a coworker, of whatever goes off script out of those realms of integrity or honesty or trust or respect, I'm ready to call them on it.
Yeah. So a lot of
I don't know if
powerful
that makes
words
sense
in
to
that.
you, but I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm ready to call them. And I have called some individuals out, and it didn't bode well for me, but that's okay. That's that's who I am.
And I think that's the important piece. It's who you are. If it doesn't align with your values, it's okay to call those folks out, because you have to protect your boundaries. Is that fair?
Very fair. Yes.
Yeah. So a lot of powerful words in that, and thanks for making those connections to what off script is. And I like how you said be real. What I always say is be you. And you and I talked a little bit before we actually started recording here, and it is be real. It's be you unapologetically, but do it and do it in the sense where you're not harming others while being yourself. And I think that's the key piece there. And we should be comfortable calling people out when we're not comfortable around certain individuals that aren't leading with integrity, ethics, high ethics, or high morals. So thank you for making those connections with off script. I do appreciate that. We talk about this word leadership, and I want to get into your book here in a little while, but I want to know when you started thinking about that word leadership, when you were this young individual, which I'm assuming this has been your career. Do you remember when leadership started becoming a thing to you?
The answer is yes. And like everyone else, we had role models that we, as kids growing up. So I had teachers. I had my mom. I had my dad. Well, I had my single parent mom. I had my stepdad at different times, and my pastor, my friends, just everyone around me. And I always thought differently. Everyone always went with the flow. And I would always step back and go, now, why did this person say we need to do this? Or why should I do that? And sometimes when I would get in precarious situations, I would take some of those teaching moments to heart and go, okay, if I do this, is my mom going to be proud of me?
Right.
I was more afraid of my mom than I was of anybody else. Let me tell you, the police had nothing on my mom.
And you should be. That should be the person you're scared of the most.
Right. And I would always measure what I was going to do. Would my mom feel good about this? Would my mom still be proud of me? Would my mom hug me and say, good job? Or would she come and smack me and say, I taught you better? So I got leadership early, as far as I'm concerned. I got the I understood consequences. I understood rewards. I understood what it was to do things that were hard. And we all have heard the phrase "doing what's right when no one's watching." I tend to gravitate towards doing what right when everyone is watching, and also when no one is watching, because you can't have it both ways. It's one way. It's not two sides of the story. No, I'll be different when everybody's watching, and I'll be different when no one's watching. No, you got to be the same on both accounts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that goes sort of to the big theme of what your book is about, which is, it's a verb, right? And it's a leadership book. It's really about leadership being in action. And everything you're saying there is really what I think is the overarching theme of your book. And you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's not about this, like, leadership isn't a passive title. But it's active, it's ongoing, and it's not about something you think about, but it's something you live. And I think what you just said there, where integrity or leadership is doing the right thing when no one's looking, but it's not only that, it's doing it when everybody else is looking as well, because it's not about discerning when to be a leader. It's leader always. Can you share some insights with that?
Absolutely. Jennifer Milius and I, and thank you for bringing up the book. Jennifer Milius and I, we go back as well. She and I were children's picture books authors before, and we were working with one particular publisher, and we had our own radio shows because the author set up radio shows. She had one, I had one, and I think about 5 or 6 of the other publishers' authors also had a radio show, and mine was on leadership. And as you could imagine,
right.
And Jennifer was working with a gentleman by the name of Doug, and theirs was on leadership as well. And so I went to the publisher and I said, hey, look, you have 7, 8 authors who are doing radio shows, and you have not given us the opportunity to meet with each other to see what we're doing, so we can see how we can complement each other, help each other, or at least stay out of the way. I said, because Jennifer has a podcast on leadership, her and Doug. I have a podcast on leadership. Now, I've listened to their podcasts, and they're very different from mine. However, I think we can get some collaboration together and come up with a great kind of thing. And he poo-pooed that idea. He didn't want us talking to each other. It was almost as though he was pitting us against each other. And I thought, no, well, that's not wrong. We should be learning from everyone, and we should always be learning. And if they have something to offer me, I want to know what that is. And if I have something to offer them, I will certainly share it with them. I have nothing to hide. But he was not into that. So I don't know why. Anyway, Jennifer and I, we got on each other's shows. We connected without his permission, and I didn't care.
Yeah, there you go.
Going off script.
Better to ask for forgiveness than permission sometimes, they say.
Well, sometimes, sometimes that's right. So it started there. And because I was writing with other individuals, and I always wanted to go back to helping people get a head start, if you will, on leadership. And what a head start is. Did you run track in school ever?
No, but I was a runner after the fact. Long distance running, ultra marathons, things like that. But
all right.
Nothing.
So imagine everyone's in the. I used to run the 100 and the 200. Imagine I'm in the blocks of the 100 meters.
Yeah.
A head start would be someone who's going to be 10 meters ahead of me and start there. So they would run 90 meters and I would run 100 meters. But that's not the distance that we were talking about. We wanted to give people that head start where they always started ahead of someone else, because mentorship, a lot of people didn't get mentored. Some women didn't get mentored. Certain cultures didn't get mentored into what leadership was. And we wanted to put something together that would give individuals a head start so that when they got the opportunity, they would be able to rise to the occasion and shine. Lead is what we're talking about in it's a verb, right? Because when you look in the dictionary, the definition of leadership is to lead. And I go, what the heck does that mean?
That's it, to lead. Well, what does that mean?
Exactly. So the book, and as I see it over your left shoulder there, it's a verb, right? Is all about, yes, thank you. It's all about the verb lead. And it's an action verb. Verbs are action words. And you want leaders to have action, right? You want them to trust people. You want them to have respect for individuals. And some people don't know that that's a two-way street.
Mm.
And what we talk about in the book is the essence of leadership. It's all the buzzwords that we hear: transformational leadership, servant leadership, paternalistic leadership. All of those words are not in that book, because those are things that come after you learn the basics.
Mm-hmm.
Because we always said you have to crawl before you can walk, and you have to walk before you can run. Most people. That book is about crawling, walking, learning, doing, experimenting, tasting, touching, feeling what leadership is.
Mm-hmm.
Before they jump into, okay, how can I use these other things, the transformational kinds of things, the servant leadership? How can I use that now? They first have to get their nose bloody, and everyone's going to. So
it's part of the process of anything.
It absolutely is part of
that is worth doing. Is you're gonna get a bloody nose doing it.
Absolutely. And leadership is by far not an exception to that. You're going to get your nose bloody all the time, because what a lot of people don't believe or don't think about is not everybody's going to love you as a leader. Not everybody's going to be on your side.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, there's going to be some animosity, because sometimes you'll find yourself in a position and other people want that position. They want it to be there and you got it. So all of a sudden they're mad at you, and everything you do is going to be, wow, look what Wayne did. Look what Wayne's doing. Look what I could do that better. And it's just, you have to work with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. I'm rambling, but that's why we wrote the book.
Perfect.
We wrote the book to give people a head start, individuals a head start, to say, I understand what this animal is. I know how to wrestle with it. I know how to grapple with it, and I know how to lead it. So that's why we did that.
Listen, the more you ramble, the less I have to talk. So this is great. The show's about you, not me right now anyways. So ramble away.
No, sir. I need to shut up and listen to you.
No, I'm just going to ask you the questions. I'm here to learn from you, sir, and share your wisdom and knowledge to the world. You mentioned bloody nose, and I want to get into a little bit about you. I want to hear some of the moments in your leadership journey where you had that bloody nose. Share with me the most impactful, painful bloody nose that you've ever had in the context of leadership. And what were those lessons associated to that? And how did they really manifest today in your leadership style and your approach?
I think of a few of them. One of the largest bloody noses I ever got, you were in the military, so you understand the difference between a first lieutenant and a lieutenant colonel.
Yeah, big, little but big.
Little but big, yes. And the lieutenant colonel is the CO, and you're a lieutenant there, and you're telling. This is one of those times when I called someone out. He did not appreciate the fact that I did not like the job I was in, and it wasn't the job as the career that I was in, the career field, if you will. And I didn't enjoy being in that career field because as I look, first of all, I'm a Mustang. So that meant I was prior enlisted. I had 9 years prior enlistment before I go into the officer corps.
That's right.
So I am not new to this military thing, and I'm not new to what's going on. However, I have always, much like a chess match, I have always looked 5, 6, 7, 8 steps ahead while individuals are grappling with 1 or 2 moves ahead. Mm-hmm. And I had canvassed what was going on, and I noticed something that was not of interest to me. Many of the individuals who were in our career field they would make 06, but they would not be a commander, or they would not be the next step where their boss's boss is where you want it to be. They could never get to their boss's position because they weren't a rated officer at that time, meaning they didn't fly. And all of the individuals who were in those positions were rated officer, were pilots. And we could not get there. It was a glass ceiling, basically. We could not get to those positions because we didn't have the wings on our chest, and therefore we would always be in the support role. Well, he asked me one day why I didn't like being in this career field, and I said, because we can never become the best that we could become by virtue of our status. Because I don't have wings, because you don't have wings, I said, you will never be a wing commander. You will never be a group commander because you are not rated. And he didn't like that. And I frankly didn't care, but that was that was the way I saw it. And I remember being in some of those technical schools where we saw the rated 06 who's in there with us for 1 week. Well, we're there for 12 weeks. They're there for 1 week. They're just getting a carte blanche. This is what happens in this career field. These are the things that you're supposed to be doing. And you have to know this because you're going to be the resource manager, or you're going to be the wing commander, and you have to know how these things work. Although the expertise was in that lieutenant colonel, he knew he knew the ins, the outs. He was fabulous. He was a fabulous boss. He was very educated. He was very well knowledgeable about what we do and how we piece together and collaborate with the rest of the force. And yet he could never get to that one level that I wanted to be at. And I told him, I don't like this career field because it's a dead end career field. I can't go much further than this kind of a position. And I wanted to get out. However, I have always done the best I could. I have always been, to me, the best that he or she ever had on their team, because I didn't want individuals to look at me and say, well, this guy's a slug and we don't want him. I have always done the best I could, even though I have moved from different positions or different career fields. In the Air Force, I had 5 different career fields. I think
it's a lot.
In the Marine Corps, you guys call those MOSs?
MOSs, yeah, military occupation specialty.
Yes.
But somebody who has went from enlisted to officer, there's probably, because I would imagine you didn't do the same thing as an officer as you did enlisted. Maybe you did.
I did not. No, I did not. Okay. As an enlisted guy, I was a cook. Okay. I started off as a cook, and then I became a surgical technician, and then I went to the officer corps, and I was a supply operations officer. I was a fuels officer. I was a signals intelligence officer. I was a program manager on things. I was an XO 3 times. I've had many jobs, and people used to say, well, you can't keep a job. And I go, well, I know. But it's all fun. It's all learning. And to go back to your original question, where did leadership come from? Because I have had such a diverse background. Before I even went to the military, I was a technical illustrator at North American Rockwell. And I remember we were working on the shuttle contract for the shuttle orbiter that we all know and enjoy, and it's no longer here. But I did that. So I was a janitor at Disneyland while growing up. So I've seen leadership. I've seen leadership in lots of means and ways, and blending them together. As I said, using the chess analogy, I could see 6, 7 things ahead, and pursuing those leadership kinds of things. I learned across all of those jobs, there's 3 things that a leader has to worry about: people, time, and money. And I don't care what field you're in. I don't care what career you're in. I don't care what job you have. If you don't understand people, time, and money, you're toast.
Now, that order that you have them in, is that intentional?
Absolutely.
Can share with me the intentionality behind people, time, and money.
Because you have to have the correct people who have to have the correct skill set, who have to have the correct mindset, who have to have the vision, who have to be able to articulate, communicate, and lead and motivate or follow. Because it's just as important to be a great follower as it is to be a good leader. As a matter of fact, the great followers will help the leadership by virtue of not doing anything that's going to disrupt that. They may not be vocal, but they could be a silent follower and won't offer any resistance, but continue to support. People, without people, you can't do anything, period.
There you go. That's right.
All right. Time. You have to have the time to do it. You got to have time to think. You have to have time to react. You have to have time to plan. You have to have time to visualize. You have to have time to communicate. You have to have time to be able to do all the things that you need to do to lead. And in your profession from the Marine Corps, obviously totally different from mine in the Air Force or anywhere else, time is of the essence. You have to identify and prioritize the problem, and then you have to work the problem. And you got to work problem number one before you can get to problem number two. And you have to have the time to do that. And then money, you've got to have the support. You've got to have the resources. You've got to have the means. You've got to have all of those things to prepare the people to make the time. I used to say the best way to, it's not my quote, but someone's quote, and I don't remember who said it, but what's the best way to predict the future? And the answer that I always like was to invent it. Okay. So if we have the money and the time to do X, Y, and Z, the people are already in place. If you can give the people who are in place X, Y, and Z, time and money and motion, they can move mountains, and they have done moved mountains. But without the people, you can't do it. Without the time to think, you can't do it correctly. And without the money, you're certainly not going to do it well.
No, I like
people, time, and money.
I figured or assumed that there was some intentionality behind those people, time, and money sort of order there. And if you don't mind, I want to share my perception on some of what you said. So the Marine Corps has two major priorities. The Marine Corps has two major priorities. One is mission accomplishment and troop welfare, in that order.
Okay.
And for the longest time, let me rewind here. I understand it. I know it's mission first because we have a job to do. But I disagreed with that prioritization order for the longest time. And what I mean by that is, imagine if we flip those two around, it was troop welfare and then mission accomplishment. And what I mean by is if we prioritized our people, meaning their health, their mental well-being, their physical well-being, how they felt valued or heard in the system, then the mission by default would happen. It would, and probably happen at a much higher level of quality, right? So I know and understand why it's mission accomplishment, troop welfare. I get it, and I just want to say that flipping it on your head, though, it becomes people-centric. It becomes a service sort of mindset about the people internally, and then everything sort of unfolds naturally and organically after that. The next thing I want to talk about is the time piece. And this might get a little philosophical.
Okay.
You've heard of and probably talked about time management, right?
Yes.
So
unfortunately, yes.
I'm going to share this with you, and I'm open for disagreement, perspective, argument, however you want to say it, intelligent conversation. But I don't believe in time management. And here's how I spin that. I don't believe in time management because one, time is a fabricated thing. It's not really existent. It's continuous, and we have no ability to stop it, slow it down, speed it up. But what we do have control over, if you will, is us like people, the people aspect. So I call it people management or self-management in the context of time. So when I hear people, time, and money, I hear people, mission, or people, money, meaning that if we doing everything that you said initially about the people, training, mentor, developing, making sure that everything's good, and creating your future, the time is going to be there. And then obviously you need the resources, but time, I just think is a weird thing. Time management is a weird thing, but the people aspect, I think it's a beautiful prioritization, and what we all should be focusing on is people. So when I say all that, Wayne, what is going through your head right now?
Oh, I agree with you. And time, since we're going to focus on time is that element, as you said, as I always enjoy talking to people about. Yesterday doesn't matter. There's a song by Janet Jackson, "What Have You Done For Me Lately?" In business,
can you sing it for us, Wayne?
I could, but all your viewers would shut you down. So that's they would come on Facebook and they would really talk about me. But what that is, what have you done for me lately? Is I've seen too many people come in and say, "Oh, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. I'm great and I'm wonderful. So you need to hire me or let me run this or be in charge of that." And I always say, "But what are you going to do for us tomorrow? What's happening tomorrow? I don't care about you resting on your laurels. What are you going to do for me tomorrow?" Mm-hmm. And if they can't come up with what we're going to do for me tomorrow, then I don't care what you did in the past. That's all good and great, but it's not helping us today. So time is something that we can't get back. Mm-hmm. And I just wasted 5 seconds of our time telling you that I don't care about yesterday. I need to see what's happening for today and tomorrow, because that's what we're trying to chase. And tomorrow will never come. The little round to it kinds of things. Somebody always say, "Oh, I'll when I get around to it, I'll do that." Well, right. Somebody gave me my first round to it once and said, "Here's a round to it. Okay, you got the round to it. Now go do it." Okay. But time is something we don't get back. Time is not our friend. And sometimes time is our friend. If we have 3 weeks to plan an engagement, an event, whatever, then we need to take those 3 weeks and break them down into. And I like to start from the back end and say, okay, what does success look like? Mm-hmm. Success looks like this. Again, how do you predict what's the best way to predict the future, to invent it? What does success look like? Success looks like this. Everyone's happy. We all had fun. And the band was great. The meal was good. And the interaction was fantastic. Okay. Well, what do we need to do to get that? Well, we've got to hire a good caterer. We've got to hire a good band, auditioned bands, and take, the rule of 3. Listen to 3 bands and then decide. Don't pick the first one that you like. Find out or figure out who's coming. Who's coming? What do they like? What do they not like? Are they a group that can talk with each other? Or are they a group that's going to be standoffish of each other? Do we want big ones, tall ones, red ones, round ones, barbecued ones, and plaid ones? Yes, we want all of those. But what does that look like? Okay, what's the venue? Where do we want to have this event? And so I do that, and I come back to day one. Who's on our team to start doing this? Who do we have or who do we not have that's going to help us get to this place? I need someone to check for a caterer. I need someone to go out and look for a venue. I need someone to go out and do the invitation list. And once you've got all that done, and as I said, time is our friend because it's 3 weeks out, we have time to do that. We have time to measure, monitor what's happened. Okay. On day 7 of the 15 days that we have, we're getting together and we're going to talk about where we are. Again, what have you done for me lately? If we wait until the last moment, one of my best bosses told me, if you wait for the last moment to still do the last bit of things that you need to be doing, you've missed it. Mm-hmm. The event is gone. He told me 3 days before the event is over in your mind. The event should be over. You are now running on letting everyone do what they need to be doing, trusting them to do that because you have done the due diligence prior. You have done the monitoring prior. You have done the feedback sessions. And guess what? You're not the smartest person in the room, Wayne. So listen to everyone else and figure out how you can either maneuver, help, step back, get out of the way so they can go do things they need to do and let them move forward. A perfectionist will never get it done.
Right.
A perfectionist will never get it done because a perfectionist, it has to be perfect. And as you know, I know nothing is ever perfect.
Amen to
so, so I can't be a perfectionist. I can't be a micromanager. I've got to believe, trust, and respect those that work with me, and let them do what they do. Let them do what I hired them to do.
I love that. And it brings up two concepts inside of your book. You know, it's a verb, right? There's two concepts that I think are fully in line with everything you're saying here. And I'll let you sort of prioritize which one you want to talk about first. The way you finish what you said, I think falls into rats downtown. So one, you're not the smartest person in the room, but it's about trusting, believing, delegating, and knowing that the right people are in the right place. So when you look at trust downtown, it says respect all, trust some, and do no wrong to none. So that's the first concept I want to explore. And then the second one is SIP cubed, which is basically everything you just described in that 3-week planning process. Right. So I want to get those two out of my brain before I forget about them, because I think, again, I think both of those concepts fit very well into the story you just shared. So I'm going to let you prioritize which one you want to talk about first.
Well, I'll talk about in the order that you suggested. So rats downtown. And it's in what Josh is talking about in the book. Jennifer and I have RATSTWTN, and that's a chapter. That's a chapter in the book. And to be fair, most chapters are 2 pages, page and a half long.
They're pretty quick chapters. Yep.
Yes. Rats Downtown is about everything we just talked about: leadership. Respect all. You have 100 people working for you. You've got to respect all of them. Some of them are A, B, C employees, meaning they want to do A work, some want to do B work, and some want to do C work. Mm-hmm. And there's going to be those that are failing, and you've got to respect all of them. Trust some of them. Everybody who has an idea, it's not a great idea. And everyone who has advice for you, it's not the best advice. It's their opinion. It could be biased. It could come from a different place, but you still trust some individuals. And I think in most organizations, the inner group and the outer group, the group that has the boss's ear and the group that doesn't have the boss's ear. Mm-hmm. But you still have to trust some of those individuals to do what it is that you have asked them to do. Do no wrong. Do wrong to none. Mm-hmm. Meaning, this person is not helping you, but you don't go out and sabotage them. You don't go out and place blame on them just because you can. You quickly enter a contract with them to either get them make course corrections or get them out of your organization. One or two, but it has to be done quickly and it has to be done respectfully. So when you're respecting all, you're respecting everyone's views. So it means you have to listen. You can't go out there and say, this is how we're going to do it. This is my way or no way. You have to go out and listen to people, to trust individuals. Okay, that's a great idea. I like it. Josh, let's work with that. Let's go. And you see how that goes. And then do wrong to none. The individuals that are not on your side, because again, not everybody is going to love you. Just because some of these people don't like you doesn't mean that you have to go out of your way to be rude and neglect them. You still have to treat them with respect. You still have to trust them, and you still have to help them get to where you want them to be, or get rid of them.
Yeah.
SIP cubed. SIP cubed is something that oh my gosh, 96? I think I came up with. Yeah. I think I came up with that concept, 96, because I needed something that I could fall back onto that would ask questions. What am I doing? Why am I doing it? Who am I doing it with? And where should it be? How do I do this? And I would always look for a matrix or some kind of a guide that would tell me how to do this step by step. But SIP cubed was strategic intent,
Mm-hmm.
purpose, planning, and practice. Strategic intent is the what. A lot of people say, oh, you should start with the why. No, you need to start with the what,
Mm-hmm.
because the why comes second. You need to start with the what it is that you want to do, what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And then the first P on the cube part is purpose, which is the why. This is what I want to do. Why do I want to do it? And again, it's nothing more than working the problem. You work the problem. P, the second P in the P cubed is planning. This is how I think we can do it. This is who we need on the team. This is the things these are the spaces that we're going to work with, and these are the components that we have. What do we not have? Again, listening to everyone else. What do we not have? Oh, we don't have that. Then we need to get that. So that's the planning. And then practice is the last P. Much like a doctor practices medicine and a lawyer practices law, as leaders, we need to practice leadership, and we need to be doing that every day.
Mm-hmm.
So SIP cubed is nothing more than an informal way to sit around in the break room, wherever you are, sipping a cup of coffee or a cold drink with 3 cubes of ice. And SIP again is SI, strategic intent, and then planning or purpose, planning, and practice.
Love
Easy. And if you put that together with Rats Downtown, you will have a good combination all the time. It won't be perfect, because as my dad taught me, practice makes good and good makes consistent. I hear a lot, practice makes perfect. Practice doesn't make perfect. It makes good, and good makes consistent, and you get better each time.
That's right. Yeah. We know perfection or something perfect is just an unattainable dream. Like, it's just,
I think so.
One, it's subjective. What's perfect to me might not be perfect to you. And then
Yes,
there's nothing in this world, whether created from a divine power or created by a man, is perfect. And maybe let me rewind, because I might offend some people. Things that are created in a divine power from a divine power is perfectly imperfect and beautifully as it's designed. How about that?
Okay, I like that.
Because I would say if it's created by a
that.
divine human or a divine power, then it's perfect. It's what it's meant to be. So make sure
Good save, sir.
When I said that, I was like, that's not what I meant to say, but it's what I meant to say, but not how you know what I'm saying. But
I do. Yeah. Good save, sir.
Good save. There's nothing perfect in this world, and if you try to chase that, you're just gonna chase your tail like a crazy manic dog. So I'm glad that I got the 2 themes right, at least how I interpreted the story, the 3-week story that you shared. And Rats Downtown, I'm gonna put that on my whiteboard, and I'm gonna throw that in my terminology from now on. Rats are going downtown, guys. Rats downtown. Oh, look at you.
I have this little cube. I don't know if you can see it or not.
Yeah.
But it says Rats Downtown, and it's just I give these out to individuals who for doing great things and letting me come in and do certain things. I give them to those individuals so they can put it on their desk and look at it, because it's not about you. I was getting ready to say something, but I won't.
Why not? Let's go. It's off script. You choose not to.
Okay. I remember, now I'm not going to talk about politics, but I will talk about, I'm probably going to get hit for this, but that's okay. I remember when President Joe Biden wrote his letter of, I guess, resigning from the race for the next presidency.
Mm-hmm.
And he put in there, and since you are, like me, really cognizant of order, meaning prioritization, I was listening and read his letter, and I said, we still have a ways to go. Because in his letter, he said he was stepping down for the betterment of the party, of his party,
mm-hmm.
and the country. And I thought that should have been reversed. I thought that should have been he's stepping down for the betterment of the country.
Yeah.
And secondly, to the party.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about respect all, trust some, do wrong to none, the country should come first before the party, in my estimation.
No, I think it's a great, one, opinion, but two, observation. I don't know anybody who read that letter picked that up. So it's interesting. It goes back to sort of what we're talking about: troop welfare, mission accomplishment, or people, time, money. It's like priority means things, and when we say things, sometimes we don't mean them in those priorities unless we're very intentional. So it's interesting that you picked that up, because it is. I'm stepping down for what I'm supposed to do, and that is lead this country. So I think that's a great observation, and it is. I need to make a decision for what's best for the nation. Correct. And what's best for my party. But I think that's great. And I don't think you're going to get attacked for that, Wayne. Come on. I think that's a beautiful thing. It could be Republican, Democrat, whatever the case is. I think it's a beautiful observation. And yeah, so thanks for sharing that. Thanks for
thank you
going
for
off
that.
script.
Thank you for that. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Another time standing in front of the boss and saying, I don't like what you said.
And guess what? I think that's okay. In a previous episode, when I asked my guest to do a journal question at the end or share, I'm going to call it for you today. I'm going to call it your honest thoughts, because I think that's how you phrase it inside of your book. But his thought prompt was, how do we love thy neighbor while still respecting thoughts, beliefs, and values of others? And I thought that was a beautiful thing. And I think you sharing that makes me go back to that moment. It's like, great, that's perspective. That's an opinion. That's something that is yours. And we should be able to share that without fear of being judged or fear of being attacked for some reason, and still love each other because we're human. We're people. We're citizens of this world, So thank you. What's on your mind right now? What's going on?
Well, you asked, again, leadership. I feel, as I grew up in my job, the jobs that I've had, the things that I've done, the places I've gone, the people I've seen, people I was fortunate to meet, like you, and all you, because as I said in the beginning, I learned more from my students than I know that I imparted in knowledge on them. Because you guys were all, you guys and ladies were all smart. You brought a lot to the table, and you still do, and we all still do in our own respects. But I was never put in a position that I felt I was having my full potential used. And you asked me for a thought at the end, and I have something written down here, because I grew up in the military, in corporate world, in academia. I grew up believing or noticing that people were judging me like you judge a book by its cover.
Yeah. Here's
a young black guy. Here's an old black guy who was a cook. What does he have to offer us? Who was a this? What does he have to offer us? I remember sitting at a table with two 06s when I was a lieutenant. We were at a conference, and it was very crowded in the dining room. And so the two colonels came by and said, "Hey, can we sit with you and eat lunch with you there, Lieutenant?" I said, "Yes, sir, please, come on in." And so they were asking, what was I doing there? And I told them what I was doing there. And they said, "Oh, and what's your," in the Air Force, they're called AFSCs, Air Force Specialty Codes. "Well, what's your AFSC?" And I said, "Well, I'm a logistician." And this guy goes, "A box kicker. Man, I would go out and just rip my heart out if they made me a box kicker." And so automatically I felt this guy did not respect me. He had no respect for me. And they're just belittling what is a pretty important job, because logistics gets you beans, bullets, and people. And without that, you can't fight a war.
100%.
But anyway,
100%.
Yeah. But anyway, they did that. And everywhere I went, I was always feeling, and here's the thought that I have for you, your audience. When did you know that you had a lot more to offer than was expected of you? And what course of action did you take to address that? So the leadership jobs that I got, I had to fight for. I was never given something just because it was Wayne. I had to fight for them, and I would go into situations and I would know exactly what needs to be done, and my bosses would poo-poo the offer, poo-poo the thought, and 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks later, they come back and go, "Hey, Wayne, you were right. We should do this." Well, we just wasted, here comes your time element. We just wasted 6 weeks.
Right.
And money and people, in that order.
Fraud, waste, and abuse.
Fraud, waste, and abuse. Exactly. So I've always chased positions. I was never given a position, and I chased them because people didn't expect anything of me, and I didn't enjoy being thought mediocre. Okay, he was a cook, so he's a nobody, no nothing. No, I want the ball. Give me the ball, because if you give me the ball, I'm going to make fantastic things happen.
Yeah.
And that's where I was.
No, I appreciate you sharing that aspect and story, your aspect of your career. And I wrote this question down for the beginning, and I really wanted to dive into it at the beginning, but I really just wanted to kind of organically go through the conversation. But now I feel like it's a great time to ask this question. And your book begins with a very beautiful concept that I enjoyed. And I think it's really what Off Script is about. I think it's really what fundamentally, I guess, leadership is about, essentially, is this internalization of self. Like you mentioned, being a young Black man, coming up through the military, coming up through the corporate world. And in the military, statistically, probably a predominantly white, especially when you start getting into the officer ranks. When did you start to kind of go through this internalization of self and defining who Wayne is? What age, what time frame in your life, and how did that internalization of self shape you?
7th grade.
Yeah. So you remember that 7th grade very quickly. So what is that moment?
That was Mr. McGee. Mr. McGee was my drafting teacher.
Okay.
And Mr. McGee saw this skinny little kid come into his class, and all of us are in there, and we all thought we were hot stuff because we could draw, we could do things. Yeah. And he would give us projects to do. And Mr. McGee quickly found or saw something in me that my ego would not allow me to see, because I just thought I was great. And he taught me, one, how to be humble, and two, that there's no bounds. There are no boundaries. He says the textbook that we are using, and I'm saying the textbook because I think by the 4th or 5th week of class, and this is, grade school is 9 months, right? About the 4th, 5th week of class, I had finished all the projects in the book. And he brought in a carburetor for a car and said, "Okay, here, I want you to extrapolate this, draw it, get the ellipse, put it on this kind of a ellipse or whatever." And he pushed me and he said, "You are going places. I don't know where, I don't know how, and I don't know what you're going to do, but there's something in you that you need to continue to have that spark go." And I kind of said, I didn't understand it at that time, but I kind of said, okay. When becoming a cook really hurt my feelings. It really hurt my feelings. And when I got to my first base that I was going to be a cook at, I had the meeting with the first sergeant. We called him first sergeant. And the first sergeant said, "Hey, am I going to have any problems with you?" And I'm like, "No, I'm going to be the best cook you have at this installation. However, I need some help from you." And he says, "What's that?" "I need to get out of this cooking field." And so I knew in 7th grade that there was something out there because somebody saw something inside me.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought it was there, but I didn't know. And he said, "It's there. You just have to learn how to nurture it. You have to learn how to grow it. You have to educate it, and you have to help it get along." I can help you, but I can only take you so far. He says, I've already taken you through the book and you're already outside the book. So I can't take you any other places, but I can push you in the direction to people who can.
Yeah.
And that's what Jennifer and I try to do with that book that's over your shoulder, is we're trying to help individuals see for themselves, because they can start ahead. What's in store for them? And I have a story about the cook if you want to hear that.
Absolutely. But I'm going to interject real quick, and I feel kind of offended. Because Wayne, if I told you that in retrospect, I wish I was a cook in the military, especially the Navy, because I know they have a really good cooking program. Because my true passion, if I were to do life over again, my true passion is culinary arts. And I wanted to go to Johnson Wales University after high school, but with my education resume and my family, and not educated and didn't have the money or means, I joined the Marine Corps. But cooking was, and still today, is probably one of my greatest arts, passions, joys. I love it. So if you and I could have switched moments in that life, in that lifetime, that'd have been great.
Josh, I didn't mean to offend you. Let me say this. Because I was a cook, I have never gone hungry from something without having something great to eat.
There you
go. Because I can cook. I learned how to cook. As I told the first shirt, he was Master Sergeant Williams. I'll say his name. Master Sergeant Williams, I told him I was going to be the best cook he had, and I was. I learned. Funny story about the cook. Okay.
Come on now. Yeah.
I found out how I became a cook when I was getting ready to go to officer training school.
Mm-hmm.
I was a surgical technician at this time, and my NCOIC, non-commissioned officer in charge, said, "Hey, wait." My nickname was Apple. Said, "Apple, come here. I need to get your story." He says, and this is the day that I found that I was going to OTS. It was in Torrejon. I was in Torrejon, Spain.
Okay.
And they had this big brown banner, "Congratulations, Second Lieutenant Applewhite," as I was coming back from lunch. And so my NCOIC says, "Hey, come in here with me. I need to get your story here." He says, "Congratulations. They just called and said you're in, 6 weeks, you're going to officer training school." I'm like, "Yay, this is cool." And he said, "So tell me your story." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, what happened to you? How you said you were a cook first, right?" I said, "Yes, I was a cook." And he said, "Now, how did that happen?" I go, "I have no idea." I said, my scores on my AFOQT or whatever it was were too low. It seems like to be anything else. So they made me a cook." And he says, "So how did that happen?" I go, what happened?" He said, "When you took the test, what'd you do?" I said, "Well, went to the recruiter station like everybody else." And he gave us a practice test, and my NCOIC started laughing. "A practice test?" I said, "Yeah." He says, And he says, "Did he say he was going to score your practice test and give you a call and let you know when you can come back to take the real test?" I said, "Yeah, he said that too." And he said, "Okay." And he said, "Your scores, how did they do when you put your scores in to cross-train into what you're doing now?" I said, "Well, they doubled, and in some places they tripled." And he goes, "They tripled. Uh-huh." He says, "Well, guess what? I used to be a recruiter." And he said, "You came in under the time," and everybody can look this up, "you came under the time of McNamara's 100,000.
Okay.
McNamara's 100,000 was where they were putting minorities into cooks, cops jobs, while the rest of the force could go off and do the things they needed to do during the Vietnam era." He says, "What happened was," he says, "there's no such thing as a practice test." He says, "You took the real test. Your recruiter took your test that you took, that practice one, and he scored it."
Yeah.
And he said, "These scores are too high. I need a cook." So he put that, he trashed that sheet, that test. He took another one for you. You came in and took the real test. He immediately took that test that you just took, threw that away, and he pulled out in his drawer the test that he took for you. And your scores, you said, were what? And I said the scores, and because I was embarrassed. I didn't like the fact that I was a cook, because I was embarrassed, because I thought there was better out there for me. I didn't go through 12 weeks of basic training, get my butt kicked to become a cook. So
Right. Okay.
I was kind of like that. And so anyway, that's how I became the cook. And 6 months after becoming a cook and going and working with the first sergeant, I retested and my test scores doubled and tripled, and the rest was history. But yeah, that's how it all started.
Ooh,
that's
a sad story.
Did not like that.
Yeah.
I did not like that.
That's terrible. That's,
did not like that.
And back, and I'm not trying to date you, but that was a while ago where things were all paper. Like the digital system was non-existent for the most part. Fair? Yeah.
Yes.
So it was probably easy for him to manipulate where he had to, or where he needed to.
Exactly.
Oh,
yes.
Man. See, I'm not trying to do a comparison here, but I took my ASVAB, Wayne, and I too got the low score, but mine was legitimate.
Okay.
They're like, guess what? You qualify to be infantry.
Yeah, but we have both grown since then. So
Absolutely.
Yes. And as a matter of fact, today is the 11th of August. Yeah. On the 10th of August, which was yesterday, I went to basic training many years ago in San Antonio, Texas, and it was 109 degrees.
Wow.
It was the first time I'd ever been on an airplane too.
Happy 20th anniversary.
Oh, 20? Oh, thank you. Yeah, you're very, very kind. Yeah.
Well, that's crazy. Well,
no.
I mean,
gosh,
congratulations on that date, that anniversary though. That's and I didn't say it, but thanks for the service of that you gave our country, and then all the service that you gave to everybody else in the capacity of a leadership role. So appreciate everything that you've done and still are doing. Thank you so much.
And thank you for yours. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're still growing each and every day.
I look kindly on our classes, and I still read. I still learn, much like I tried to suggest to you guys to be an ever learner. Never stop learning.
You have to be, especially with how things are evolving nowadays. It's like you have to continually learn. And
I said that in front of some execs once. I was doing leadership development for a corporate firm and their executive board. And this one guy said, "Oh, well, and so you've been doing this leadership stuff for how long?" I said, "Oh, pretty long." He says, "Well, what have you done recently to step out your comfort zone?" I said, "Well," and this was 2011. I said, "Well, I just learned how to fly helicopters." So something I didn't know. And I did that because I wanted to remind myself that I could learn from anybody. I could learn from somebody younger than me. I could learn from somebody who didn't look like me. And I can certainly be in a position where I don't know anything about this. They had these collectives and these cyclics and these pedals and stuff. Oh my gosh.
I wouldn't trust myself flying a helicopter.
Funny.
There's too many things going on. I don't know. You haven't seen me play the drums, so all the hand and
okay.
I don't know. I'll stay away from the helicopters.
But I tell you what, I could do this because I flew helicopters.
There you go. Maybe I should start flying them.
Yes.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So
anyway, I'm sorry, I'm talking too much.
No, this is good. But stepping out of your comfort zone. So I would say probably 3 months ago, again, we talk about learning, pushing ourselves, and I was feeling stagnant. So I was like, what are things that I wanted to do when I was younger, but I was too insecure, too scared of being judged or failing? 2 of those things that came up, one was singing and the other one was acting. But I didn't want to go straight into acting, Wayne. So what I did is I signed up for singing lessons and really enjoyed it. Got a lot of great positive feedback. But the second thing I did was improv and talk about going off script. But those 2 things, I've always wanted to act and I've always wanted to sing, and I did both of those, but I did improv because I thought I would kind of, I guess, fit well into the improv community or into that art. But what I realized, improv is a lot more challenging than acting, because acting, you have a script, improv, you don't. And you have to, how I said improv, or how I explained improv, it was a fine dance between thinking and not thinking.
Okay.
Thinking about being present, being aware in the moment, but not thinking about the failure or the judgment or the looking stupid. So you had to walk this fine line, this tightrope or this dance And I found it very challenging to do the improv, but those two things that I did. So you learned to fly a helicopter, and I wouldn't say I learned to sing, but I went through singing lessons and did improv because of that growth mindset. What can I do to challenge myself and to get those synapses or those brain things firing?
Oh no, do you still enjoy improv? Are you still doing it?
No, I just signed up for those classes and not doing that, but I do want to get into actual proper acting now and try to do some stage performing. Something to do with the script.
Excellent. Okay.
Oh man. So yeah,
all right.
I do want to do. We'll see how it works
Excellent.
out.
I joined it. Well, I wish you all the luck. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. All right, Wayne. It's that time of the show, and I appreciate everything that you shared with me thus far. And I believe you've already said the journal question, but I just want you to rehash it again. So this is where I just ask the guests to share a question or something to think about for the audience. And again, you already said it, so I think that's the question you want to ask. What can you remind me what that is?
Certainly, it's when did you know that you had a lot more to offer than what was expected of you, and what course of action did you take, knowing this about yourself?
Beautiful. So when did you know that you had more to offer than what was expected of you, and then what was the course of action?
Yes.
Wow. I'm going to have fun with that one. So I answer these prompts myself. So I'm interested to see what my brain comes up with. But Wayne, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Before we get off here, I'm curious for the Off Script listeners, where can they get your book? Where can they see and learn more about you, your podcast, et cetera?
You're very kind. And thank you for having me. I'm honored. Our book, Jennifer Milius, and my book can be picked up at Amazon. It's there, and golly, if you get the book and you like it, or if you don't like it, please put a comment on Amazon just so people can see what you have to say. Pass it through. I can be reached at Wayne at mindsyncing.com. That's MINDSYNCING.com. So Wayne at mindsyncing.com, and my website is mindsyncing.com. So with that, Josh, thank you for your service. Obviously, I've said that many times before, not here, but in classes. Thanks for being in class with me. Thanks for teaching me. And thanks for reversing the roles here, because I was under the hot seat and you were the professor today.
Wayne, I enjoyed it. And I tell you, I was probably just as nervous walking into this podcast episode than I was the first day or the last day of class. So thank you so much for your unrelentless or unwavering positivity and beautiful smile. I appreciate you spending time with me today.
Ooh. And
all that information that you just said about how to get in contact with you will be in the show notes below. So all the spelling and everything, I know mind syncing,
yes, sir,
is definitely something that the listeners need to be aware of. So all that's going to be in the show notes below. But Wayne, thank you so much. It's been a blessing to talk with you today. And as always, and I know you do this, but please continue to lead off script. It's been great, sir.